Yo, yo, what's going on, players? Armando, what up, baby? Let's do it. Arvin, what's going on? Hot damn, we got things to do. Many things to do. Yeah, let's get to work. Everybody good? Looking at goddamn right. Goddamn right. Man, it's Thursday, baby. All right, let's get to work. Hey, so yesterday was a little bit of a tricky day in the market. After our right event, the CPI event, you got a little bit of a fade, but I wasn't really anything to write home about. Let's take a look at the market index, see exactly where we are, and then we'll go in. So a couple things, right? In terms of the overall structure of the market, we're still holding up here pretty good, but we are in this range and we're testing the bottom of this range, now multiple times, right? So I think we got to really be careful around this kind of 20 SMA on the Qs. You can see here, if we're just kind of marking out some levels, let's go to the 30-minute chart here real quick, right? You can kind of see, and it's never really an exact spot, right? It's more of a zone of love, let's say. But we're kind of testing into the bottom of this range. But, we've been trading back into this box quite a bit. So, one thing that we do have to give, we got to give the bulls still a little bit of credit for holding on. But, yesterday was what we'd call a bigger range day, in terms of, because we had a gap up and a fade. So we've got to be careful here today. If we roll back red, we may break under this 20 SMA and, we'll have some additional downside. But we haven't seen anything in the price action yet that says that's going to happen. Let's see like where else we're going into some of the other indexes here and mark out some spots. But watch that 20 SMA. You can see here, right? You had a big range day on the spot. Now, one thing to be mindful of, this dump into the close, I don't believe that was the CPI. I think the ECB came out right around 2:00, right, and said that they're going to keep increasing rates, and that's what put the sell pressure on. So just kind of be mindful, like we don't have, that wasn't all just the CPI. The CPI was kind of like, we were really just sitting around in range till they closed, and then we got a little bit juicy here. Now you can see here on the SPY, we're sitting here on the 9 EMA, and we're kind of doing a 9 EMA D rider. So as long as we're holding that, we're going to be stuck in a little bit of a little bit of a chop zone, but it's still like, right, it's still hanging. The only thing that we do got to be a little bit worried about, right, was we did have like a monster cock kind of big range, reversal day, but we only gave back a day's worth of gains, right? So we can't always like get too worked up about it. As we give back a damn day's worth of gains, like who cares, right? Now let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the earnings plays first of all. Bank earnings are coming up. That's what starts it. Then it goes with Alcoa, and then you'll start seeing some of these other ones start to pop out. All right. So let's take a look and see if we got any good gappers here. I know everybody's been trading this, GFAI and stuff. Not my personal type of flavor, but let's take a look and see if we got anything else. Oftentimes what will happen is when you get one of these kind of stocks that really starts to go nuts, you'll start to trigger like basically any company that throws out a PR, while this is happening, people will start coming in like, hey, this is the next GFAI, right? So then you'll have like, Joe Schmo come out, right? It'll be like, hey, Bob's House of Pickles. And Bob's like, hey, man, our pickles got AI too. And then next thing you know, right, like this Bob's House of Pickles starts to go. And then this one goes, then Suzy Q starts to go. And then it's just like, right, you start to get a little bit of an endless parade as people are looking for the next one. Now, this thing is what we'd call long in the tooth. If it starts to roll over, then, all these things start to dump too. So we got to be a little bit careful. Kashik, what's up, motherfucker? How you doing, buddy? What's going on? You still over in Pennsylvania? Hey, Tobias, how are you, buddy? Yeah, you can. I'd be a little bit nervous to keep playing this one. I mean, obviously, because of the reverse splits, you still you know, if you take the pre-split prices, you still got some room to go, but you're up like 5-6 days in a row. This is the heartbreaker. For those of you guys that are good traders, you know, obviously you can make shitloads of money if you can catch these in the right way, but it requires the amount of skill it takes to trade that kind of speed is quite a bit. Probably just better off like leaving that alone. You see here, MDGS junk. Yeah, I'd probably leave that one alone. Junk. OCA, that's junk. Let's take a look here. FRGT junk. Yens. This is the China Bull ETF. You see, it's like you got a little bit of action in China's, right? You got a little bit of action in China's. Now, this China Bull ETS just stuck in a big, gigantic range, right? So this is not something that you would have like a big trender on, right? This is not like gold or something along that end that, you know, has like a big trend on it, right? You're still like in a little bit of a range. You know, the only thing I would think is like, you know, this BABA is sitting on support here, right? You got a small gap up on it. It's had a $10 pullback into, right, the kind of the bottom of the breakout bar. So this bar here, this is when they announced that they're going to be kind of splitting up the company into 4 pieces, right? And to unlock some value or whatever it might be. So we're coming back and we're retesting right into that breakout spot. And we're sitting on, you know, a couple layers of support there. You get the 50-day moving average, 200-day moving average in that zone, right? So obviously the gap up makes it a little bit tricky. But let's see how, like, if this thing kind of pulls and holds, you are on a sweet spot here. I was hoping for I had a bunch of alerts set for the 200-day moving average. We're in the zone. I'd add it for now. Let's add that. Yeah, you see like all this junk is, all these Chinas. They suck. They've been sucking to trade too. So I wouldn't read too much into it. Like we can keep a couple, right? But we don't need to have like a whole host of these bad boys because they always suck to trade. You got a little bit of gap up in, right? Some of these crypto names too. So check this out. You know, even though Mara faded off yesterday, you know, we theoretically could call this an inside day, right? Because the candle's inside the previous day. This is still in play. You know, ideally, you'd have a couple more days to, like, you know, either retest the breakout spot or let these MAs come in. But when you get like a big thrust day and then you get an inside day, like that's actually bullish. Like this can start to come up. Watch how it starts. You know, if it starts to push and build into that 1060, 1050, then you could still have a shot. So let's add this to the list. And the key on this, though, right? You just don't blindly start coming in hot on these things. Let it congeal and start to build around that 1050, right? It's the tightness of range that gives you power, right? It's the tightness of range and building that makes patterns, right? So like having say you have XYZ type of pattern you've been learning, that's not going to just work on its own. You still need to use those patterns and trade around, right? Supply and demand zones and make sure you're clearing out spots. So let's add that one. You can see here, right? Right did. I wouldn't call this inside day range because it did break the previous day's range. So this one's a little bit more tricky and definitely a little bit more extended than Mara. So they may need another day or two, but, you know, I think Mara's got just an easier look to it right now. I'll take a look at a hot stick and Tobias Nicola, huh? Coins looking, yeah, this is a hot mess, this thing, right? This is what you call penis in between us. Like you're just stuck in that big long range. You have a couple days where it's shredded and then a couple days where it's getting shredded. That's not really my particular flavor on this one. I'd probably leave that alone. Nicola. Yo, I don't know about this, right? That's a turn. I mean, that's just a zero. There's no getting around it. I mean, it is getting some climactic selling. I mean, you have 40 million shares, 50 million shares in selling. Look, if you say you got $5,000, right? So you got $5,000. And you're like, I want to take a lotto and have some fun. I'm gonna buy this Nicola, right? If you want to do something like that, that's great. Personally, fly your ass to Vegas, get yourself some hookers, nice bag of cocaine, right? Go hit the tables and blow $5 grand like a gentleman and have some fun, right? You still lose the 5 G's, but you'd be like, man, got myself a nice hand job, lost some money playing slots, got drunk. I got the IV clinic lady coming over. Overall, pretty good day. Like, that's not something you'd regret. That's the way you got to do things, right? If you're going to take a gamble, do it the right way. Have some fun. Be a gentleman. Hey, Tamar Bagesh, I'll see you guys tonight, by the way. If anybody's in Los Angeles, we're getting drunk tonight at 7. Now let's go back. All right, let's go back. By the way, yeah, these gold stocks are going too. You know, I wouldn't touch any of these gold stocks right now, but you can see here like gold's pushing off. You could probably trade the futures contract on. You could trade the futures contract on this, or play the options. Otherwise, the gold itself doesn't have enough intraday range to necessarily trade like as a day trader. But whatever. Let's take a look, see if we got any shitters. And yeah, junk. Hey, so this SRPT had news out, right? But it's capping right down into support. These are the news plays that can get you in trouble because it's like it looks so nasty, and you come right into support, and you're just sitting there, just banging on it. And that's not going to be. That's the no buenos. Lucy and the Wolf. This thing's a turd. Infosys. This is an Indian company. We can't short this no matter what. We don't mess with the Indians, right? We don't mess with the Indians. You don't have the Indians. Who's going to be your doctor and who's going to run your tech companies, right? We don't mess with the Indians. We're on the come up. We're on the come up. Man, in Los Angeles, this first time I probably ever see this, man. You walk around the streets, some of the Indian guys, they got blonde girlfriends and stuff. When has that ever happened in the history of Indians in America? I'm like, running around, ask my sister, I'm like, hey, did you see that? And she's like, what? I'm like, an Indian guy, he's got white girls on his arm. Yeah, he's not even like loaded or anything. He just looks like a regular dude. The times have changed, man. My people, we are on the come up. We're on the come up. Except for Tarun. I doubt he's getting any. He wears a medium. That's just, at that point. Just kidding, Tarun. CTLT. See, this is gapping down to resist this, no good. Junk. All right, so there's nothing really juicy on the downside. And you see these banks are going to start reporting. JPM, Citigroup, I believe this is tomorrow, right? So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on for tomorrow. Let's see, how these bad boys hold up. So let's get into this. I think, top of the list here, right? Tesla had a nasty little day here. Nasty little gap fade. This is probably a green to red scenario, like you can see here, the pickup on volume 2, right, from the previous day. Big range bar. It loves to dance around this 180. Let's see how we react, right? It loves to dance around this 180. It goes back actually for some time. For some reason, it loves to dance around this 180. I think we can look like any kind of push off into this, 183, 184. Let's start to watch and see if we start to fizzle back over. And if we do, then that's going to be prime time. Hey, this SQ finally cracked, right? After all the drama inside this range, man, we sat there. I sat there and stared at this damn thing for like a week, and then I missed it yesterday. While I was stuck in that range, man, I had so many alerts set too, and I just missed it. But we finally cracked. Oh, I gotta get my face screens out. We finally cracked here yesterday. You got a little bit of a gap up on this, about 2%. I think I had another one. Man, faded off of the VWAP around 64.75 yesterday. Man, any kind of shove into this like 64, 65 zone, or just a straight up, right? A straight up yank at the open on a green to red move. I think this is a good juicy one too. I mean, the range on this was 5 points yesterday. So it's about two times its ATR. So the ATR on SQ is 277, a 10-day ATR. You move 5 points yesterday. That's nice. That's real nice. You know, a shove and a fade or just a straight rug right on the green to red. I think we can come in hot on this bad boy. Add this to the list. Yeah, my only worry, so somebody's asking, like, what do you think of the Roblox short? My only worry with this one is like you got all this support underneath. It's not as right. It's not as clean. Like, where do you start to? You got to. So when it's not clean, like even if it rolls, when they're not clean and they got too much support underneath, what ends up happening is like you got to start dancing around too many levels, right? So you're like, you look at this, you look at that, and you're starting to have to dance around levels. You're like, oh shit, the 20 SMAs here, the 50 SMAs here, oh, the 30-minute supports here, the 15-minute supports here, 5-minute supports here, 1 hour support here, moving average here, VWAP here. And now you're like, I mean, you're really playing a whole song and dance, trying to dance around all this different levels. So I always like, when you have like something just straight clean that's like broken under ranges or broken above ranges, just because then you don't have to, when you're looking at the intraday chart, you don't have to necessarily sit there and see like, oh shit, like I got this going, I got that going. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is Roku's another one. This is like, SQ for me. Like you're just staring at it, staring at it, and staring at it. Now it did have a big day. It did have a big fade yesterday. Just keep an eye on that 60. Keep an eye on that 60. If it loses 60, I think we're good on this bad boy. And then let's go with one other short. I think that this one's been fading on its gaps. I mean, we've faded this thing on gaps. Every spike, you want to be fading this bad boy. You see here, like you push it on the red to green right into supply zone, big fade off, right? Push into supply zone, big fade off. Yesterday, you gapped up on this bad boy, big fade off, and then you even start to shred off the VWAPs and stuff like that. This looks like a yanker too. That 20 is going to be a spot on it. So like that's where the magnet is. After that, probably the easy money's over on it. So you want to really kind of look for some pops on this thing, fade that bad boy off. It's going to look pretty good. All right, let's look on the long side. Let's get to the long side now because there are some juicy McGee's that are still holding up here. All right. I like this net. Like this net's got relative strength on it. Watch and see how this thing reacts around yesterday's highs. You can see like this thing gapped up yesterday and it really held through. There were a few tech stocks. I forgot if it was Mongo Bungo. There was a couple other bad boys that were holding up here. Net's got good range on it, for the most part. It does a $3 ATR, but when it really likes to go, like you'll see it go 4 or 5 points. The ATR is compressed on it because it's just been stuck in this range. When it's actually trending and it comes out of range, the ATR in this stock expands really fast. So we can put this bad boy on the list. There was a whole host of stocks that really held up like this. They were more of the kind of random tech stocks that were there were a little bit of the random tech stocks, but I do like this bad boy quite a bit. Yeah, there were a few of these. Now you can see here like Mongo Bongo, but this one's like, to me, this one's hard to trade. It trades super thin with the spread. Net's got a spread on it too, but it does trade a little bit better. So add net. We got the S Nation. Now this has actually got a little bit of more of a wilder range yesterday. You could see like things faded its gap, popped a couple bucks, popped back. But you're sitting here really testing. See this bad boy? Let's go to an hourly chart here. And you're just starting to peek out over it. Look at that bad boy. It goes back a couple months, right? So this has got a spot on it. Now, there's a caveat on this one. Breakouts haven't been like holding for like many days. Like besides Mara Riot, right? Some of these, we haven't had like, at least on these regular tech stocks with, sans PR, they're not necessarily, they do often break out, then break back under and then go. Remember on Roblox that day, like it finally went, like it busted over that 45 spot and it got like a nice little MPC on it for like 60, 70 cents. And then like it ripped back under, it like marinated all day. Everybody forgot about it and into the close, like it ripped like 2-3 points and you're like, what the fuck? So you got to be a little bit careful on these. They're not ripping as clean as you'd want for a market that's like, near, highs and stuff like that in terms of the yearly highs. CXAI, let me see here, buddy. Yeah, you could day trade this back and forth. This is not my particular thing. I'm just too bald, too fat, too old. But yeah, like, I mean, this thing's a pig. This thing's a pig, but like, for a little bit of a rental, sure. Like you could probably play this. I'd make sure on these kind of setups, like you don't want to chase them at the open, like let them pull back into the EMAs, like see if they just start to grind, at a level for a while. Usually if they base out like that and then they start curling up, you can do it. But otherwise, make sure you're not, otherwise you're making sure you're not doing this. Etsy looks like a fader. Yeah, watch this kind of over under the 100 spot on this. You should be good to go for a little bit of a shorty McGee. Good. A relative strength play too on the longs. We got S, we got net. Meta has also been relative strength play. Like it seems like every time this thing dips up, it's getting bought off. So, just keep an eye on this. I'm not really touching this unless it clears 217 on the long side. I think you kind of keep shorting the pops into 217 until it clears, or buy the big dips on it, till it starts to clear. Because, sometimes these things, like it's getting so long a tooth, they can just start topping out like that. So you got to be a little bit careful. If the market does decide to kind of dump off a little bit, right? NVIDIA broke under its 20 SMA yesterday, and you do have a spot here. You do have a kind of a zone here, this kind of 264-ish that it likes to dance around. Good. Yeah, I think off the bat at the open, we want to see if we can fade off at the bat. The main thing at the open, see if we can fade off this SQ. Yeah, let's see if we can fade off this SQ. Let's see if we can fade off the Tesla Nation. See if the rug gets pulled in an AI. Usually off the bat at the open, the green to reds are the fastest ones if you see them, right? If they set up like that. Usually those are going to be the fastest ones at the open. Cool. And yeah, don't discount the fact that the market might just because the market fade off yesterday doesn't mean it's just going to fade off again, because you're still sitting on multiple levels of support, price support, and you got, right, your 20 SMA there. We'll see what's going on. We're going to have to dance around this level, right? We'll have to dance around this level a little bit and let that guide us too. Like you don't want to be too balls deep, right? Like shorting something on support, especially when the market has been acting so strong of recent. This is a little bit of a tricky spot, so watch your size at the open too. All right, let's have some fun today. Look at that. All right. Good luck. Godspeed. You know what we got to do, which is the do. All right.